In the house, we have Nick Tumminello.
To share our experiences and thoughts.
Chowing down on some French toast, and I was like, man, you were making me hungry. But we had a great conversation. It's probably been like, 4 or 5 years since then. So it's really cool to just have you on the podcast now. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode on the Dynamic Lifestyle Podcast. We have a great guest with us in the house. We have Nick Tumminello. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right. Appreciate you guys having me and appreciate everything you do to provide a platform for people like me to share our experiences and thoughts.
Yeah, it's good to have you here too. And I know before we hit the record button, you were just chowing down on some French toast, and I was like, man, you were making me hungry. But we had a great conversation, just catching up. So I remember too. I think Chris and I we've been following your work for several years. So we'll talk more about that. But I think we first met you at an NSCA conference. I'm not sure where the location was.
It was Vegas, I think.
It was Vegas. Maybe you were teaching something, and I know you were a keynote speaker. But then we spoke to you after. But it's probably been like 4 or 5 years since then. So it's really cool to just have you on the podcast now.
I appreciate that. Well, yeah, it was. If it's the NSCA conference, I'm thinking, was it an NSCA Personal Trainer Conference?
Yeah, it was.
So that was probably like somewhere around, I want to say like maybe 2012, 2013.
Wow.
And I will tell you, I'll tell you, I remember that very well because the speaker lineup, of course, I'm a little biased because I was one of the speakers, but aside from that, the speaker lineup of those two events, they had them back-to-back years in Vegas, was still to this day what I think is the best speaker lineup I've ever seen at a conference. Those
loaded.
I have the best memories of speaking all over, and I got a lot of great memories of that conference. They were very special events to me. They did one in DC as well. Sorry, I think I'm blending it together. They did one in DC as well that had a really top-notch speaker list as well, but I don't know if anybody could ever top that.
Yeah, that was a badass one.
It was jam-packed, but yeah. Let's jump into it, Nick. So, are you ready for what we call rapid dynamic questions?
We'll see how ready I am.
I know you'll be good. All right. So first one is, if you had the ability to have like a billboard just anywhere, like let's say it was in Florida or New York, you had a billboard, you had a chance to have that up. What would that billboard say and why?
Say nobody owes you anything. Mm-hmm. Stack days.
I like it.
Man, that's great. What have you learned like this past, I would say 8 months from this pandemic, Nick?
I've realized that, I'll just say the first thing that comes to my mind. We like simple. We all like simple. But what I have found is that people like one piece of equipment workouts, like an entire workout they can do with one piece of equipment. And, I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought maybe they'll grab a set of dumbbells, but they don't want to have a full gym. I would get that, but it's not even like, I'll get a medicine ball and a band and one set of 8-pound dumbbells or whatever. It's like, no, I'll buy one set of 8-pound dumbbells and then that's it. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not making a judgment on anyone. I'm just saying I learned that from what I've talked about with magazine, website publishers like bodybuilding.com, even with my book publisher, Human Kinetics. They've all said that one piece of equipment workouts are like the hot thing and have been since COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. In one word, what do you feel the world needs more of right now?
Minding your own business.
I love it. What are two skills
the world needs more of people who don't think the world needs to hear more of what they think. When they say like, this needs to be said. No, it doesn't need to be said. You just need to say it because you think people need to hear it. But,
that's spot on, man.
Yeah.
What are two skills that a fitness professional should be seeking for 2021?
Well, this answer would be universal. It's not a year specific thing. One of them I'm going to say is more of an innate skill. It's kind of like you got it or you don't. And that's just having that sort of personality that you're a good connector. I have to give Coach Jeremy Boone credit for this. I used to say good communicator, but you can be a good communicator, but not necessarily a good connector, right? Where people want to be around you. They want to listen to you. They trust you.
Right.
You build relationship. but you can't be a good connector without being a good communicator. So props to Coach Jeremy Boone, for setting me straight on that one. Again, you kind of have that or you don't. It's like singing, where if you can't sing to save your life, all the singing lessons in the world might make you a little bit better, but you're still not going to be winning American Idol anytime soon.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Or you're definitely not getting any record deals. So that's an innate thing, but I'll give you something that you can work on, which is, refining your craft. And I would say that is becoming a better exercise prescription expert. I have to just, shake this out just a little bit. To me, that's what a personal trainer really is from the technical side. So I talked about from the neck up, connecting with people, getting people to buy in. Now I'm talking about from the neck down. What do you do with their body? And regardless of your approach to training, powerlifting, yoga, Pilates, kickboxing, functional, a hybrid of all, whatever it is, what separates you from just someone who's memorized a lot of things, they read books, they were a college athlete, and they can go back through their old strength programs, is that they just think everything is an option, where the personal trainer, the skilled trainer, has a more refined decision-making process of usually what not to do, how to eliminate variables. And it really comes down to how you apply exercise, meaning the range of motion, which types of resistance that you use. You don't just say, well, either you do this or you don't. And then how you organize it and prioritize it throughout the week, right? What do you need more of? What do you need less of? And that's really the difference. That's prescribing exercise. That's the difference between a professional, like I would liken it to an actual NFL coach, versus the guy on the bar, at the bar goes, they should have done this. That sounds good. And it seems pretty reasonable. Well, I could have called that play. Yeah, you could have. But if you actually got a chance to talk to that coach, they would have told you 3 things that they considered about what the defensive patterns are that guy on the stool would have never dream of, and it would already be above his head.
Yeah. No, I like that. What are 2 books that everyone should read? And it could be just very generic, like anything you're thinking that just maybe was a game changer for you.
Yeah. I got easy answers on that. The books that actually were game changers for me really didn't have anything to do with training. It more had to do with just psychology.
Okay.
So the first one was actually written in the mid-90s. It's called How We Know What Isn't So. And again, keep in mind, the human brain is the human brain. So our natural biases and logical fallacies and, how we misinterpret the evidence of our own experience, which is pretty much a summary of it. That really just kind of changed my view and humbled me in regards to, how is it that I can watch we all see it like a movie, right? You watch a movie and one person says they love it, one person says they hate it, right? Or how is it that someone witnesses a crime scene and one witness reports something 100% different than the others, right? In soldiers and police officers, they call it fog of war, right? They go blank, they don't remember anything. That happens to us every day, so that was a huge game changer for me. And then I would say, I can't believe I'm spacing on the title right now, but it's a book about Bruce Lee's philosophy. It's called Something Warrior. I'm disappointing myself right now that I can't remember this title, because I've mentioned this book so many years and so many times. But it's actually not written by Bruce Lee. It's I don't know if I have it right here on my shelf or not. I'll see if I can grab it. But it basically, Bruce Lee's philosophies. He was a philosopher. His movies weren't that good. I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee, but we all got to admit his movies weren't that great.
Yeah.
But his biggest impact was his philosophies. He was a philosophy major, and he blended the different types of philosophy, Eastern and Western philosophy. Mm-hmm. And, he would say things like in martial arts that I think apply to everything from politics to training, which is in my realm, which he would say like, well, if your martial art is most complete, because everybody back in the 60s and 70s said all you need is this martial art, he would say, well, then how come other martial arts are developed? And I think that's a very profound way to look at it. So, he really looked at a pro and con, and he took, his famous saying, one of many is, absorb what is useful, reject what's useless.
Yeah.
So, I recommend people reading that just to get a little bit more in depth in that. And he also used to talk about, basically, if you don't accept yourself, if you accept yourself, the whole world accepts you, which is basically like, you don't let other things control whether you have a bad day or not. We're all human. We're not robots. But, if you have a sense of, who you are and you're kind of like a rock, then regardless of what happens, you can be responsive to it versus reactive to it. So,
Yeah.
just things like that.
Yeah. That's good, man. I'm gonna have to check out that book because I'm a big Bruce Lee fan as well too.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt the flow here, but remind me at the very end before we go out. One of my bookshelves is like right over here. I'll see if I can quickly. It's probably right there.
Okay, got it.
Cool.
All right, Nick. So you're officially off the dynamic rapid questions hot seat. All right. So let's dig into this, man. I want to dig into your story because I think you got a great story. It's going to resonate to a lot of the listeners. So I read that you mentioned yourself as basically an outsider in the fitness industry. So I really want you to kind of like elaborate on that.
Well, I don't want to get too much into things that people can probably, just read about or, too much of my history because I don't know if that's going to benefit too many people, but they want to get some good tips and tactics and things. But I'll say this. The reason why I say I'm an outsider is because I did not come up as a lifter or a bodybuilder. I'm definitely a fairly athletic guy. I said a few of my high school records for like chin-ups and pull-ups. I was a workout warrior, But a lot of trainers, I would say, especially now, are, started off as power lifters or started off as bodybuilders. And I'm not making any judgment or anything like that. But I have no allegiance to any of that. That stuff. I actually came up, and you could say there's a little bit of ego there, but it's on myself. Is I just wanted to be. I was just always wanted to have knowledge that other people didn't have. I read, when I was in high school, I read all the bodybuilding magazines I could get my hands on. I used to talk to my wrestling coaches in high school. They used to actually have me help them write the workouts when we would get into the weight room twice a week. So I used to go to fitness conferences with my mom from the time I was 16 years old. My mom is in the medical field. She used to bodybuild in the 80s. There's a little bit of history about me there. So it was more of a personal thing. I just thought if it was like, I want to do something. I want to be, the best at it. Right. And you talk to like any NFL player. They don't just want to make the NFL. You're already the best. They want to be the best in the NFL. So that's still stuck with me, to this day. So I have no allegiance to things. I'll learn from everybody, kind of the Bruce Lee thing. And, but yeah, I could care less about people's barbell numbers, or I respect hard work. I respect what that achieves you, but I'm not a lifter first. I'm a person who's always liked exercise, but I'm 100% a personal trainer, first. It's all about, how can I best, help each client, and how I can continue to build knowledge and have things and tools that maybe other people don't have, or I can use the tools better than they can.
Yeah. And where did like that competitive advantage like come from? Was it from like your mom, or was it from like your dad, or upbringing?
Probably a little bit from my dad. My dad was always kind of, maybe some of that, a little bit of that kind of like, you know what I mean? Oh, look what I got. Look, he was a little bit of that, not a show off, but always kind of like wanted to have cool stuff. You know what I mean? But mine isn't as much. It's not as much competition. It's really it's really my own. I'm trying to outdo, myself, but you do measure yourself on what's out there. Right. So you have to respect what everybody's doing and their achievements, whether you agree with them or not. But you look and go, okay, this is the bar. But what's missing? What can I, what can I add?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I know too that you were inducted into the PT like Hall of Fame, and then you won NSCA PT of the Year in 2016. So when did that? Those are amazing accomplishments, and I think you mentioned too that you didn't go to college, you didn't have like any degrees like accomplishing that. So like for someone that is brought up in a family like a traditional old school like mindset, like you have to go to school, you got to get a good job, you have to go through the school system. I mean, that's impressive, Nick. So like what like made you like just have that work ethic and drive? Where'd that entrepreneurial side like come from to sit there and just like push for that?
Well, I appreciate it, and I do think a lot of people can relate to that, because there is a thought that, well, if I want to get recognized in the field beyond just the people, even if you have a super successful training gym or a online business, whatever it is, the next question is, okay, people know me in my 5 mile, 10 mile radius. You may be the mayor of your own town at your gym, or maybe you have a good online business, but how do I get recognized by other professionals, right? How do they want to listen to, to me? And I'll also say too, it certainly had nothing to do with my physique. I'm barely 5'6". I look like a fit guy, but I don't, I'm not winning any bodybuilding competitions
Yeah.
So, I would just say, how I did it. I say it just goes back to, I think it comes down to two things. You have to have enough confidence in yourself that no situation is too big. So you look at what people are doing where you want to go and you go, I should be up there. Right. You know what I mean? I have things to say, I have things, but you are humble enough to know it's still pretty big, and you have to respect that you got to earn it and that you have to keep earning it. Right. I mean, even Michael Jordan used to say, I know there's people in the audience that have never seen me before.
Yeah.
That's what he would play. He'd always find reasons to motivate himself, even after he won multiple championships and, it was MJ. Right. And so I just think a lot of it has to do with just an innate, again, goes back to, my favorite quote of all time. I'm from Baltimore, so I'm gonna be a little biased here. Is Ray Lewis? He said, "I'm pissed off for greatness." I'm pissed off for greatness, and I would definitely say that's probably the best, most reasonable. It resonates with me the most. You got to have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder,
Yeah.
and kind of keep you motivated, and then it's just kind of like, okay, I did that. What's the next thing?
Yeah. And kind of like to elaborate on this, like obviously a lot of people struggle with like self-limiting beliefs or false beliefs. So such as like, fear of failing, fear of getting started, comparison syndrome, imposter syndrome, maybe a scarce money mindset. I've seen a lot of fitness professionals struggle with these things. So is there one in particular that you had been struggling, but you just somehow just overcame that, or maybe you still struggle with that still till today?
I have all those.
Yeah.
I just don't give a shit.
Yeah. Same here, man.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, that's human, right? It's only, here's the thing. We just because you put a name to something, if it's debilitating, then it's a problem. But if it's motivating, then it's good, right? So we always say these things as negative, right? Like, oh,
Right.
Focus on yourself. We think it's selfish. No, it's not. You can't do anything if you don't have something going, you know what I mean? Think
Right.
about anybody that we've ever dated, regardless of your sexual, tendencies or whatever. If someone doesn't know who they are, what they want, you were miserable in that relationship.
Oh, hell yeah.
There you go. So they didn't take care of themselves, and they were looking to be made happy by other things. That is a recipe for unhappiness, right?
Yeah.
So, it just comes down to, I knew, again, I had enough confidence, enough of that, confidence in myself that I can do this, but enough humility that I don't deserve this. I have to earn it.
Mm.
And okay, you feel like you're an imposter? Prove it wrong.
Yeah.
Put it out there, and and then keep doing it. That's the other thing too. It's also sustainability, to me, is a big thing. It's not the one-time achievement. It's like, okay. So I have a very simple way that I motivate myself, and it really comes down to, I've never heard this from anybody. I'm not claiming it. This is just something that I've always kind of been like. I call it past and present motivation, and maybe there's a cooler name for it, but here's what I mean. I live my life to know that if somebody went back in time and told my 18-year-old self, this is how you're going to be at 30, and these are the things you have done, and that my 18-year-old self would have gone, man, I turned out to be pretty cool. Right? So I want to make my 18-year-old self proud. And I also want to have, so that's the past. And then I should say past and future motivation, not past and present. And in the future, I want to make sure that when I'm retired or, can't do things I want to do for whatever reason, who knows, that I can look back and go, yeah, I left it all out there. I did stuff with my days, and I can kind of be that older guy that might bore younger people. Like, I did this and I did that, and they like listening to it. I got to travel. I did this. I carved out my little note on the timeline of my field.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that, man. That's great. And I would even say too, it's like almost like what I like saying is like, I want to live a life worth, telling a story about, it's like, I feel like we're all the narrator to our books. And it's like, I want to write each chapter, whether it's good or bad, but I want to look back and be like, damn, like that was a hell of a ride. Like I did everything I wanted to do. I laid it out on the table and that was that.
Yeah. But what it all comes down to is extremely self-motivated. And I think that's the difference, is just you have to be super stubborn and super confident that even if you got rejected 100 times,
Yeah.
you just think, well, it's just because they don't recognize what they do. But wait a minute, it's also going back to yourself and go, why is it that so many people aren't recognizing this? Maybe I'm not ready for this yet, or maybe the way I'm putting it forth, maybe I'm in my own way, right? So maybe I have this thing, but I'm creating roadblocks for myself in regards to how I'm communicating it. Maybe I come on too strong. Maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe I'm not speaking to where other people are at. Maybe I'm speaking too much for myself.
Yeah.
So that's the humility of it, to where you have to go, okay, I know I can do this. It's kind of like the anything you can do, I can do better mentality, if given the same, ability to learn it and whatever, right? But then understanding, well, if it's not happening, then I have to look at myself and change my approach to getting to where I want. And that's the constant course correction. And that's where I think the biggest hindrance is, a lot of people just then, blame everything else. Oh, well, they don't like me because I'm too short. They don't like me because I don't have a degree. They don't like, no, that's like going back to the kids and the teacher. If the grade was an A, you say I got an A. But if the grade was a D, you said the teacher gave me a D.
Yep. Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
That's good.
I want to transition more into like the entrepreneur talk and the side of you, because you've done a lot, man. You've done like courses. I mean, obviously you came out with your bands. You've done DVDs. I think you've done books, everything, right? So where did the idea come from, like the NT loops, and what are those exactly?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what they are, and it'll kind of segue easily into how I got the idea.
Sure.
They're basically just a bigger super band. So they're 10 inches longer than the big band loops, if you're not sure. Some people call them strength bands, but the big rubber band loops that you can buy everywhere. We just made them out of a stretchy fabric. A lot of people are familiar with I call them the booty bands, right? The bands that every booty model on Instagram and their dog, has collections of. I'm no different, and my girlfriend is no different. Got a collection of my shoes. So because they're more surface area, they're thicker, and they have that rubber on the inside, that track on the inside that keeps them from slipping. They're a lot more comfortable to go around your skin than the rubber bands that you put around your thighs. I looked at that and I said, this is a really cool concept, but how come someone hasn't made these bigger? They try to replace the rubber ones that dig into the small loops that have been, a physical therapy staple and a training staple forever. And the issue is they don't stretch very well, the booty bands, because they're not designed to stretch that much, just enough to, move your knees in and out, right? So our R&D, I set out to basically say, hey, I want to make something that's just as comfortable and durable as this band, like a fabric type band with the rubber grippy on the inside. But I need to change the makeup of the latex and the material, that it stretches like a super band. It has a very smooth, consistent stretch. And that way we'll have an extremely versatile band that's designed to go around the body. Because I was constantly using super bands to put around people's bodies, around their thighs to do hip abductions, adductions, around their waist to do waist-resisted deadlifts, waist-resisted runs, even going across their back to resist push-ups, you name it. So that was what our R&D came out of. And came up with a band that does the job, and it's actually it's been battle tested. We've sold thousands and thousands of thousands, and you will not find a bad review online anywhere, which is extremely impressive in this day and age where people just can't wait to find something negative to say. And that really comes down to why I came up with it. I came up with it because I asked myself, why am I using a band that was originally designed to go around barbells? Because that's what those bands are designed. They're designed to create accommodating resistance around barbells for powerlifters. Why am I using a band that's designed to go around barbell, to go around people's body? When it's friggin' uncomfortable is all get out. It digs into your skin. It rolls, it flips, not to mention they peel and pop.
Yeah.
And one of, there's a little side note here, but aside from the typical, home exercise equipment like treadmills and, people falling off treadmills, there's a tremendous amount of lawsuits, probably more than any other piece of equipment, home piece of equipment, probably more than is bands snapping back at people and hitting them in the eye, to a lot of them, and causing actually blinding injuries. I'm not fear-mongering. I'm not, saying anything that's beyond. Look it up. Type in resistance band eye injuries, and you'll see numerous hospital records, lawsuits, law firms. It's a big thing. So obviously training safety was a big thing as well for me. So I designed the band. I said, I'm just going to design a band that specializes to go around the body. And I look at it like a tool in my toolbox. One of them is the Phillips head screwdriver. One of them is the flathead screwdriver. They're not mutually exclusive. Just because I have my own version of bands does not mean I tell people not to buy super bands. What I say is use super bands to go around your bar, around your chin-up bar to assist in your pull-ups, and around your barbell to create accommodating resistance. My bands are not designed to do that, and super bands will do a better job of creating accommodating resistance for around barbells and spotting you on a chin-up or pull-up than my bands do. Use my bands for everything else.
Gotcha. And when we actually hit the pandemic, did you actually see sales increase just because people needed that type of equipment in their homes?
Hugely.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sales were already great, but so here's the thing: you learn a lot about retail, and I'm just saying this. Some people might just be curious about human behavior and human nature. Other people might be thinking about coming up with their own product, whether it be an intellectual product or like a book, audio, whatever course, or an actual physical hard good. Usually we will kind of scout a product before we buy it, right? So we'll see something, if we're not familiar with it, be like, oh, that looks cool. Rarely do we just bang buy it right away because we want to stop ourselves from making that impulse buy, right?
Right.
We probably got a drawer full of impulse buys that we don't use anymore. And then after things tend to show up for a little while, you get a little bit more rapport with it, then you purchase, or something happens where you go, oh, I need this, right? So for trainers, it's like, oh, I can do that with a super band. And then they go see it and they try with a super band. Their client goes, oh my God, this band is so uncomfortable around my body. And they go, oh, I don't want to do this exercise, and then some people say, man, you even created a blood blister here on my arm because of that band. I dealt with all that stuff. So then they came around to it and go, oh, now I see the value of what Nick has. So the pandemic hitting just created all of them. The majority of those people I bet were thinking about getting it anyway. It just pushed them further, like, okay, now I'm going to buy it because I kind of have to have it.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, we're definitely going to check those out. We'll definitely have a link in the show notes for those too. And I want to kind of stick on this conversation since we were talking about the pandemic. And obviously the pandemic, closed a lot of gyms down. It really took a huge hit on the industry, right? So I want to know, like, what are your true thoughts just kind of like going into 2021, if a fitness professional's, listening to this, like what do you see, being different or changes or what to expect maybe?
Well, I mean, I would say that what's the word that they would use for the businesses that stayed open? Necessary? What was it?
Oh, it's non-essential or essential, something like that.
Yeah. So the first thing I will say, and this is as political as I'm going to get, I'll say, all businesses are essential to the people that own them and run them and have their livelihoods invested.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So I really don't like this whole idea that this is essential. This is not. Although of course I get it, and people who are in the political positions. I understand it's a kind of a no-win situation. I get all that. That's as far as I'm going to get into that stuff because that's very strong opinions for people, and they're all reasonable, I would say. In regards to what can we do about it, as trainers, that's what really comes down to. What I would say is businesses have told you for many, business expert types have told you for many years, try to have multiple avenues of income, diversify. That's why even stock people will say diversify your investments, right? So I would say this is just another demonstration of that. Now, that being said, saying diversify comes with its challenges. One is, well, diversify how, right? And then two, well, how much time do I focus on one? Because if I focus on one, it takes away from the other. Now I'm kind of chasing multiple things, right? So again, it's one of those things, we say it sounds good, but okay, when it actually comes down to actually rubber meets the road, then you realize, well, wait a minute, this is not as easy as it sounded. It sounded good on paper. So here's what I mean specifically: use the pandemic. The question you ask yourself is, how can I diversify myself? That is, if we continue to move in a direction that's similar to a pandemic, which, by the way, is just what the future is going to have for us anyway. People are going to get more, they're going to want to go less places. They're going to want more convenience, all these types of things, right?
Yep.
So how can I diversify myself in a way that would accommodate this sort of environment? That narrows your decision-making process a little bit. And then, you work on that. And then in regards to how you allot yourself, and again, I'm not trying to act like I'm a business person. That's more your guys' thing. But I can just tell you from what, being in the field for a long time and hanging around a lot of people and seeing what works. They say, I have a saying in the NFL, it's kind of funny. They say, never leave your faux show money looking for mo money, or you end up with no money. All right. So if you got some faux show money, don't focus on that. And then in your extra time, and you may have to motivate yourself, meaning that's time you could be at the bar sipping margaritas, or you could be at home watching Netflix. Dedicate some of that time to building another thing that's there.
Yep.
So how do you allot your time? You allot the most time to what's bringing you the most friggin' money, right? And then you plant the other seeds to have that there. And that way, if the thing that's making you the most money starts deteriorating because things change or pandemics or whatever, now you have a platform already built. You're not in panic mode. So I just solved the two problems that we have with diversification. In what way and which one do I focus on more? What's primary, what's secondary?
Yeah. No, that's great stuff, Nick. And I mean, it just goes back to, like you said, just the oldest word in the book, just diversify. So I like it. I like it.
The last thing that I will say is, only losers focus on they think the way the world should be and complain about it.
Yep.
Winners focus on the way the world is. And what do I mean? And act accordingly. Now, I'm not saying, it'll be the change you want to see. Okay, sounds good. Great. Right? Yeah, do things the way you're proud of. I'm not saying compromise your values. What I'm saying is, if you're putting things out there that people just don't respond to, it's your fault, not theirs.
Yep.
Right? You are just that's narcissism. Right? You're trying to
100%.
fit everybody to you. So what you have to do is any business plan, policy, whatever approach that doesn't consider human behavior will fail. Is faulty from the start and will fail. So whether you like it or not, when you're keeping these in mind, you have to ask yourself, what does the market demonstrate? What will people really respond to?
Yep.
You may think they're dumb. You may think it's ridiculous. Get on board or get run over.
Yep.
100%,
The market will always tell you if they want it or not, for sure.
And I would say, Nick, I think those are water bottles behind you, man. You should crack one open and pour one on you, man. You're on fire.
As they say, you can't. People say you worry about burning out. I say you can't burn out unless you were first on fire. So
I love it. All right, let's switch gears here. I want to talk a little bit more mindset, and just I want to know what brings out your killer instinct and dark side. I know we all have that in us, and let's use Michael Jordan as an analogy. I know we talked about that earlier. Did you watch his whole series, The Last Dance? Did you watch that?
I did.
Amazing.
I did.
Yeah.
Although it's funny, I would say I'm not trying to correct your BS Marks, but I would say that was really about the Bulls teams. But of course,
no, for sure. I meant to say the Bulls. Yeah, I didn't mean to say Michael Jordan.
It wasn't about MJ and his yellow eye.
No, yeah. I just want to use like MJ as just like how relentless he was. Like he just had that killer instinct. Like he just would never settle. So what brings out that dark side of you and just like that killer instinct, just like in business and life, to always continue to get to the next level and get better and better?
Well, I mean, I don't know what you mean by dark side. To me, it's not a dark side. It's productive to me, and it does make me. I would just say I'm motivated by things I see out there, where I look and I just go like, again, I understand everybody's doing the best they know how, but I'm certainly going to look at things that are out there, and I'm going to go like, what? Like that's how you say that, and that's what you're doing, and how are you leaving this on the table? How is this not talked about? Or why is this not talked about? Or why are you doing it that way? Haven't you thought about this? I mean, that's pretty much my brain since I started going to fitness conferences. The question is, what do you do about it? Do you just sit there and bap? No, you go, okay, well, if nobody else is doing it, I'll do it. And if other people are doing it, you know what? I think I can do a better job.
Yeah.
But as you put it out there, and then the free market of ideas determines that, and maybe you tweak things a little bit. And believe me, you learn a lot. I always say you can look good on the pads, but you get in the ring and you actually have someone responding to it. Remember I said human behavior?
Yeah.
A lot of times we don't realize how people will respond to things.
Yeah.
Right. And then you put it out there and you're like, oh, dang, like I didn't know. Or sometimes you just can't believe it. It's not that you like got owned. It's that you just go, wait a minute, like that's what you heard from what I said? Never even dreamed that anybody would think about that. But then after a while you go, oh, okay, well, clearly this is what people are interpreting.
Yeah.
Act accordingly. So human behavior, man.
Yeah, it just goes back to just people, it's like either you're a critic or you're a creator. It's like so many people will criticize and say, oh, I can do all this shit and do this better, but it's like they never take action, right? They're always just going to criticize, but then you have the creators that actually do it and they're learning from it. They're building those entrepreneurial scars and, just learning as they go.
Yeah, well, I criticize by creating.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't make up that quote, by the way. I think it's a very old quote, but it's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, I heard that somewhere.
Yeah. What would you say, Nick, that right now, like in your life in this time, what are you unapologetic about? Like you really stand by. And a good analogy I like using is like if you go to like an ocean or something like that, there's a rock right there in the sea and like the waves are hitting it. That rock is unapologetic. It's smack right there. It's not moving for anybody. So what are you like really unapologetic about right now and stand by?
Well, I mean, if you talk to me, I'm unapologetic about everything. I don't apologize about anything. If I don't think I did wrong, I'm never going to apologize for it. But that's a little bit more, I would just say this, how I run my social media. I don't really people don't really put this on me because probably it's how I've created it. But, in the world where everybody wants you to know everything about them and there be a political pundit and, you have to post the right thing and dress a certain way because that's where the trends are. Basically what we learned in high school is called peer pressure.
Yeah.
I just, I don't care. Or, when people say like, well, I'm watching, you didn't post this when you were supposed to. And to me, I'm like, oh, fuck yourself. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I didn't, I'm not going to, I don't get shit. But if you don't want to buy my stuff or you don't like what I say, who cares? Like people need to be learned to say no more. I mean, this whole idea that everybody has to like you.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. It's just like, no, you're just letting yourself be controlled by people. This whole idea of being liked by people and pleasing everybody, so you got to be nice and be respectful to people.
Absolutely.
You let people start dictating your thing because you don't want people to say bad things about you. You've basically just given up your control because the next thing is now you're just waiting for your orders, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I heard this analogy made about that. They're like cats. They're like feral cats. If you give them milk, they keep coming back. If you don't put any milk, they move on to someone else who gives them milk.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that side of you though, like, did this like develop or was it just like how you were raised or like, cause I love that side, man, where it's like you have this thick skin and it's like, you want to be friendly to people and come off nice, but if it's like,
can't please everybody.
Yeah. You're not going to please everybody. If somebody sits there and disrespects you, you're going to let them know,
Yeah, well, I don't. I don't even mean about. I mean, I will let somebody know, but that would be more in person because that's productive in person when you can look someone in the eye and it's. But on social media, you always, if you're in a position where people's eyes are on you, you always look bad no matter what, right? Put it this way. Okay, you have a UFC fighter. UFC fighter goes into a bar. Pre-pandemic or whatever, and you hear that the UFC fighter got in a fight. You think, because UFC gets in fight, UFC fighter, we know that name, gets in fight with, guy at bar. And that just is a faceless, nameless guy at bar. Now, this UFC fighter cannot win no matter what. And what I mean is the UFC fighter gets knocked out by a sucker punch. Oh, my God, you got knocked out by some bum at the bar. If you beat them up, you think, well, what are you doing fighting these regular people? You're a pro fighter. Yeah. You're a certified killer. What are you doing, right? So no matter what, all our eyes are on you, and other people realize that, and that's why they'll approach those fighters and whatever, because it's just like, wait, I get my ass knocked out, but I tried to fight UFC person. I live in infamy among all my friends, you know what I mean? Because I got balls that clank when I walk now, you know what I mean? Right? So you have to understand that. So I don't necessarily mean on social media. I usually just let that stuff disappear in the abyss where it belongs, and people forget about it, real quick.
Oh yeah.
But I don't really invite that as much. After a while, it just kind of stops happening because it's the what you create. I don't feed it. So after a while, people realize that that's not going to get a response.
Yeah.
So it's it just doesn't get me emotional. What I mean is that what I decide to post or talk about, you know what I mean? Now it's just like a current event happens and everybody thinks that, everybody rushes to talk about it. And first off, it's like, they really don't care, and secondly, I'm someone who has to be consistent, which is like, well, if you're going to make a statement about every human rights thing, 'cause that's the thing, it's not politics, it's human rights. Okay. Every time you hear about a murder happen, you now have to say you're against murder. Every time you're against, child pornography happens, you got to come out and you say you're against pornography. I give people the respect and go, you got parents. You don't need me to tell you what's right or wrong and say bad things are bad. That's because to me, by me saying that, I'm insulting your parents. I'm insulting your own moral that you need me to say that. Secondly, if you need a personal trainer guy to tell you what's right or wrong, like you need help, right? On social media, I'm your moral compass, right? And third, I don't buy into the fact that just because you don't say it, say you're against something means you're automatically for it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I don't even play a game that has such stupid rules, because when you play a game, the winner is the person who made the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Man.
Such
Like
good
my biggest fuck off to people is I say, I reject your whole premise by not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, spot on.
It's all control. It's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Control.
Yeah.
Yep.
What would you say right now, Nick, that you're missing, like in your life, if there's anything that you're just missing?
More protein on a daily basis.
All right.
I'm not being sarcastic. I was
Yeah.
just thinking to myself, I was like, man, the last couple of weeks I haven't eaten enough freaking protein.
Gotcha.
I think I got to get back to. I'm telling you, I was just thinking to myself, I need to get back to my old like high school, like eat a can of tuna a day and another protein shake. Like I've kind of gotten away from that, and I just realized I'm like I can see, I can see how that benefited me.
Yeah. That's
It's
a good
cheap, and it's super cheap too. I'm like, man, how'd I get away from that?
Pop open a can of tuna.
That's
and
like a nice 60 to 80 gram stack of protein with the shake and tuna, though, right there, man.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it because I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I said, we should prep for another possible lockdown. I have some clients in the UK, and they just went to lockdown.
Yeah.
Some other states in the bigger states, I think like New York and whatever, have already started to do it, and I kind of anticipate that'll probably happen again.
Same here.
And so part of the waters that you see stacked behind me, that's because of that.
Yeah,
and,
gotcha.
And we use bottled water anyway on occasion, but I just bought extra, and I don't think it's going to happen for a little while here for us, but so I just bought a bunch of cans of tuna, and I know we eat it, and I was like, man, why did I stop eating it like on a regular basis anyway, just to get a little extra protein in?
Yeah, exactly. What would you say is next for you going forward in 2021?
Oh, I got a lot. It's not. I can tell you exactly what it is. I'll tell you kind of in order of how it's going to happen. We just launched a new NT Loop Mini, which is our version of a mini band. It does not compete with the booty bands, the thick fabric bands, because they're very heavy and they're very good at what they do, which is a limited thing. Basically go above your knees and push your knees out, right? But I'm still a big fan of the versatility. So they're comfortable but not very versatile. Mini bands, the rubber mini bands, yellow, green, blue, they're extremely versatile, but they're like 100% not durable, and they're 100% uncomfortable. They're snapping on a daily basis, especially if you're a trainer like myself who goes through them all the time. So we developed a very lightweight but fabric and very durable mini band that stretches like a mini band. So you can put it around your wrist, put it around your ankles, and do all the mini band exercises that you know and love, but with a much more durable and washable band. So they're called an NT Loop Mini. We just came out with those. I don't know, it's going about a month ago now, and they're selling really well. So I just talked with my book publisher, Human Kinetics. If you're not familiar, that's pretty much the biggest fitness book publisher in the
Yep.
in the world. A lot of people, if they don't know, they've probably seen Strength Training Anatomy or Bodybuilding Anatomy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's published by Human Kinetics. It's probably their best-selling of all time book. So I will start writing my 4th book for them in the end of December or January. A little side note: I actually already wrote the entire book.
Right on.
But the first draft of it, and we filmed. We have 3 certification courses coming out. We'll be rolling out over the next year to 2 years. The first one's already been filmed. We did the course. Right now, we're just editing the video and putting things together. So we anticipate launching that. I would say by March, maybe, and then we'll do another follow-up certification later in the year of 2021. Who knows when that is? Maybe wintertime.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
Awesome, man. A lot of exciting stuff coming up.
Yeah, and the new book is slated to be out latest, I think, by the end of October next year.
Okay. Right
Nice.
on.
Well, Nick, I just kind of want to wrap this up by just commending you and just saying thank you so much, for just coming on the show and giving us your time and just being 100% real and authentic, your experience. And you've been a distant mentor to Eric and I, whether you know it or not, for many years when we were doing the bulk of our personal training, online coaching. So I appreciate all the info you've put out there to make us better coaches and obviously other people that are out there in the world too. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm really grateful, man. I mean, it's one thing to be a person of success, which just means you can live the life that you want, but it's another thing to be a person of value to other people. And so you put yourself out there for it to be heard and hopefully resonate. So it is very validating, and I do mean that you both have been impacted in a positive way by it, because I would hope that I know a lot of things that have impacted me in a negative way where it made me run the opposite way. Maybe I'm glad that I'm in the category where you're the arrow is pointing in the same direction, not the opposite direction. And I hope I can continue to earn your respect with my future work, and I look forward to seeing. I think your guys' arrow is pointing way up, and I also want to say, I say this on every podcast, but I mean it. We're addicted to free, and I'm no less of an addict than anybody else. But we have to understand that somebody pays. If I didn't pay, someone else paid. You guys paid for those microphones that are there, the computer tech that you're using, and that costs money. And all the knowledge and perspectives that you have, that you share for free to other people. Yeah, it helps you in the end because it may help people to come into your circle and possibly buy your products or whatever.
Right.
But there's no guarantee that'll happen. You're doing that for free. You paid with your blood, sweat, and tears, and sacrifice away from your family, and doing things you love. So I hope people continue to appreciate that and respect that, because it's important, because if you don't, then people won't respect it when you do it.
Yeah.
So,
Well said, man. That was truth bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So final question, Nick. I mean, what does it mean to you to live a dynamic lifestyle?
Oh man, I don't know about a dynamic lifestyle. I would just say, just make sure that you're able to do the things that are important to you. That could be make money. You could be a family first person. You could be a work first person. I would just say know that. Don't judge yourself as one is bad, or the other. Just know who you are, and just make sure you communicate that to everybody around you. And that will allow you set expectations, and that will allow you to lead the dynamic lifestyle, right? And not be caught up in your own, like, oh, I should be doing this. I didn't do enough of this. And then it'll allow you to free up your mental time to then do the hobbies that you like, or, maybe you're like Michael Jordan. You don't have hobbies. Your hobby is kicking someone's ass on the court.
Yeah.
You figure out your hobbies later after you retire.
Yeah.
I would just say, it's just accept who you are, and not get so caught up in like the self-help mentality where you basically just try to lead someone else's ability, and use those as tips, of course, right? Better time management, yada, yada. But just understand who you are. Maybe you constantly get creative at night. Don't try to fight that and go, there's something wrong with that. If it's only wrong if it's not working for you. If it's productive, it's turning into production, just roll with it until it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Love it.
Amen.
Love it. So is there anything we can support you on, Nick? And then where can the listeners find out more information about just, what you're doing and just connect with you?
I would say Google knows me, As long as you spell my name right, probably even if you spell it wrong, it'll say, "Did you mean this?" Like, absolutely meant that, Tumminello. Yeah. So yeah, just my website, nicktumminello.com. And, you can see me Instagram, social media. I'm all the typical places that you would find it.
Cool. Right on. So we'll have all that linked up in the show notes. Once again, Nick, thank you so much for your time. Guys, go follow Nick, see what he's doing. And once again, man, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Nick.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this video and another episode on pro tips on living a dynamic lifestyle. We truly appreciate it. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of it. If you're interested in getting more value like this from these pro tips, make sure to subscribe above. We're going to be dropping these daily. Also, if you are a fitness professional and you're looking to create more income, impact, influence, and independence, we just dropped our new book, Rise of the Fit Pros, so you guys can do all of that. And you can also start building your hybrid training model of in-person and online training. So make sure to click the link or the book right here to grab your guys' copy, and we'll send it over to you. Other than that, we're out. Talk to you soon.